excited to have Andrew Taylor with us tonight. If you guys don't know Andrew Taylor, he's like the OG of the OG. Okay, he is like he's like the biggest person that there ever could possibly be in FFL, and he could be his own IMO times like a million. He does like 250 million, probably more than that, probably like 400 million, right, Andrew, a year?
No, I wish.
Okay, well,
More like
close.
250.
$250 million a year. So just to put that in perspective, you guys, this team that we have on this Zoom right now, we did 17 million last year. Andrew's agency, which we're part of, which is amazing. It's an honor to be part of it, did 250 million. So just so you guys know the caliber of person that we have on with us tonight, I'm super, super excited. And Andrew, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Andrew. I'd love for anyone who like doesn't know your story or maybe hasn't heard from you. We have a ton of new people like in the last 30 days. If you
Oh
could
yeah,
kind
I'll
of
tell them. Well, I wanted to say thanks for having me, Marissa. You're awesome. Digna, Desiree, your guys' team I got to sit through your award ceremony and it was pretty amazing. And I don't know if you know this, but you're actually kind of funny. Do people tell you that?
I feel like I think I am at least.
No, it's like a dry humor, but I like it. Um, I love this team's legit, so I'm glad to be on. Digna's energy is like I just want to bottle it up and take it around with me everywhere. You guys are lucky to be on this team. Just people that care about you, help you, do the right thing. I know Marissa; she's not thinking about you guys as numbers. She's thinking about you guys as like how do we get everybody to win? And it's just something you can't. I don't know. It's something that I've never wanted to take for granted because that's what I had. And it's easy to forget what you have when you're just kind of stuck in the day to day. I made this rule where I was like, okay, I got these people that are better at this than I am around me. And my goal is to extract information from them and not take them for granted. So, like, if you guys are around some of these top producers, use your time wisely because it's easy to go, oh, we just became friends, and you kind of forget what you can learn from them. To tell you a little bit about my story, I'll make it quick. I started when I was 18 years old selling. I was terrible. I went to 10,000 or I booked 10,000 appointments face to face. I had the craziest stories ever. One of my first appointments, I was 19. It was in Long Beach, California, in the hood. And the guy was like, I was like, do you have any medical conditions? He's like, I got stabbed right over there in my front yard a month ago. I went to the hospital. And then he's like, he's like drinking Tampico and gin. And he's like, do you want some gin and juice? I'm like 19 years old. And I was told to just do what the client wants to like kind of become cool with them. And you always say yes if they offer you tacos or cookies or tea or coffee, whatever it is. And I was like, sure, I'll take some gin and juice. I literally was like, I could not drive after this appointment.
Andrew, did you make the sale?
Yes, I made the sale. Yeah, I made the sale. I could not drive though. I had to sit in my car. I couldn't get out of my car because I was scared. But I sat in my car for like an hour before I drove off, and I wasn't even 21, which was hilarious. But yeah, good thing we have telesales right now. So fast forward, now we have this like you guys are in the perfect storm. Like this year is going to be something you've never seen before, and I lost so many recruits because we couldn't do this virtual, and they were good, hardworking people, but they're like, dude, I'm not going to drive 4 hours, you know, 2 hours there, 2 hours back, and all around town. I just can't do it. So now that we got virtual, it opened the door to anybody in the world that has the desire, that wants to work hard, that wants to invest, and wants to be self-employed. But I've been telling people, all my friends are now selling. They weren't selling before. Someone just texted me. They were a producer 4 years ago. They were in the field. They didn't make it. They're like, hey, virtual looks crazy. Can we talk about it? Because I got 2 kids, and I'd love to get back into it. My mother-in-law, my uncle Jimmy, which if you don't know him, you should because he's a character. But everybody I know, I'm like, dude, and that's why this year is going to be so amazing for all you guys and all of us in FFL. There's a few different reasons, but that is like the the technology and the things we can do now is crazy. The amount of people we can help. But um, to go back to where I started, I had no sales experience, but I did have my dad died when I was 10, and in appointments, that's what I would tell people, even though I had no sales skills. And most people told me no. And if you told me no, I would just leave. Like, I wouldn't argue with you. I was just getting lay down sales. My confidence wasn't super high. I was working at the grocery store, but I would just tell people, hey, this happened in my family. We had there was no insurance, there was no money. My mom got 3 jobs. She's a beast. She's like a superhero. But like, why don't we get this? And you get all your money back if you don't use it, and you got living benefits. And people just liked the fact that I was just being genuine. That's how I closed. Fast forward my career to meeting Sean Mike when he opened Family First Life. And he's like, dude, you should be able to write 10,000 a week. And the few recruits that I had quit, they were like, Sean's crazy. They were like, he expects people to do 10,000 a week. That's not possible. I'm going somewhere where they don't expect that much of you. And I called him mad at him. I don't know if you know this, Marissa, but I was like, dude, you're making people quit. You're being too crazy on the calls. You're telling people if they don't do 10K a week, then they're going to be broke and all this other crazy stuff. And anyways, the funny thing was, right after that, I did 10K in a week and it became normal for me. And I was like, oh, this actually isn't hard. It was just me, my own mind, tricking me into thinking that it was something that couldn't be done. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. So then my goal was to just sell, because I was like, I don't know, people were quitting on me. I was only recruiting people that were lower than me in income and in life, kind of, because I was comfortable recruiting them. And I was making like $10 an hour. So you can imagine the people that I was trying to recruit. And it just wasn't working. And then fast forward a few years into FFL, I'm thinking making a couple hundred K is good. And then I start to go, okay, I want to invest in real estate. And I realized, like, because I had this whole formula from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad of like how to buy a property, and how much you should put down and how much you should cash flow and all this stuff. And I realized if I hired one agent that was good, then I would make the same amount of money as having a paid off rental property. And I'm like, dude, agents are everywhere. Like, everybody I talk to, as long as I'm not scared to talk to them, but it could be a doctor, it could be anybody. And I got to the point to where I would just tell everybody, you should look at this, or why don't you do this? And funny story, at the conference, I don't know if you guys saw the funny salesman, but I went right up to him and I go, dude, why are you not selling life insurance? And then he's like, now his kid's licensed. His kid made his first sale since the conference. Funny salesman junior. He's 18. He's in high school. He's door knocking in Detroit at night. He has no iPad. He made his first sale with just his cell phone. This kid's going to be a legend, like, just from his first couple of days. Like, talk about excuses. Oh, and he didn't want leads because he door knocks because his dad is funny salesman and he's funny salesman junior. So he's like, I don't need leads. But you guys will hear about that later. But long story short, I'm like, okay, how does this make sense? I'm just being dumb, because really the truth is I care what people think about me at this point in time, because it's my own confidence issues. And I would think people were always judging me. So I didn't want to talk to people about the business. I didn't want to post stuff on social media, because I'm like, oh, people think he's stupid. People are waiting for him to fail. I mean, I have news for everybody on here. No matter how good you do, the people from your hometown will probably still hate on you. So just, like, who cares? Like, let's go help a bunch of people. And that's what I kind of realized. I stopped caring. I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to everybody. Yeah, people in general will probably still hate on you, but especially in your hometown. So long story short, I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting too. So I'm selling, 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 selling. I make this goal to get out of the field. When I get out of the field, I'm gonna do $1 million a month in premium when I stop selling. And we finally hit $1 million a month, which was like 2018, and which is crazy to think the growth from 2018. But Marissa, guess what happened at 2018? I get out of the field.
The volume went backwards.
No, I was like legitimately depressed because I was so used to talking to people all day and helping people with policies. And then it just went away. And I was trying to fill my time with like, I didn't know what to fill my time with. So it took a while for me to figure out how to do the same thing in selling with recruiting, packing my schedule, and almost doing the same thing, but closing people on recruiting instead of appointments. But it just made me realize like, this business can be really fun and give you a lot of fulfillment aside from money, which is super cool. I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, I talked to a few people that recently retired and they were like, dude, I miss the people business. I miss being around people. I miss helping people. They're like, I've made more money than I ever thought. But now that I'm not in the people business, I'm like, it sucks. So the reason I want to say that is because we have a really cool thing going, and it's more than just money. And you guys are like the heartbeat of it because your team's amazing, and this is like exactly what we want the whole company to be like. But yeah, so since then, this is something that I learned, and then Marissa, I'll pass it back to you. But like my goal when the company opened up, everybody wanted to put the company out of business because they were like, they can't pay agents that much. And they were like, they got scared because the company started to get traction. So my goal wasn't like for me to do really good a few years in. It started to be, okay, I just want to back up Sean and I want to help him. And then my team started to be like, they did this thing which was crazy. They were like, all right, let's help Andrew get to the next promotion level. So they literally were like doing blitzes and like team calls and rallying. They're like, let's get Andrew from 120 to 125. And I'm like, this is crazy. Now, in the meantime, they're hitting their promotions by trying to help me. But then they would turn around and their team would be like, hey, let's get Trey. Let's do a team blitz this month and let's get Trey to 130. And then it'd be like, and it was just this thing that it turned into where it wasn't about like the individual person, but it was about like, how do we get the person at the top of us to the next level? And what I learned is like, if you complain all the time, because we've all gone through seasons, I'm sure, of negativity. If you complain all the time, your team's going to complain all the time. If you don't get on the calls, your team's not going to get on the calls. If you don't sell, your team's not going to sell. If you're negative, your team's negative. If you're positive, your team's positive. And it really, even if it's 2, 3, 4 people, it really starts with you. But if you can go, okay, I don't know what Marissa's goals are, but if you were like, okay, how do we hit this next goal together? I think it really is a fun way to grow and like do it together. Like if you got 8 people on your team, be like, yo, how do we get Desiree to the next level? And then turn around and do it again. So we had a lot of fun doing that. We also made targets of who we wanted to pass, who we wanted to beat. And then I put the promotion guidelines next to my bed. Like I pinned it next to my bed. And I also pinned the carrier trip next to my bed because I'd never been on a plane before and I had never really been on a vacation before. So I was like, I want to try to win this trip. I want to see it every day. And then on the promotion guidelines, it's interesting because the top commission is 145. So like if you're at 100, someone's getting that 45% in between you and them. And the only reason is because you haven't put in the work yet to get your comp up. So I would wake up and I'd be like, it was funny because it was one of my friends who I love more than anyone in the world, but I still was like, bro, I want that money. Like So I'm going to try to earn the promotion so I could get the money. And I would make that your goal. Like every 2 months, baby steps. How do I move up this grid? How do I go from 90 to 95, 95 to 100, 100 to 105? Right. So what's crazy now is people don't even look at the promotion guidelines.
I know.
Like, I don't know. I want to do the same amount of work to make more money. But anyways, Marissa, I'll pass it to you.
No, I love that, Andrew. That's great. It's kind of funny because remember, like when I first started the business and we did that podcast together, I was like on Andrew's podcast as a new agent, and I remember thinking, like, Andrew is so awkward. I remember calling like, Grady, you're the person that hired me, and I remember thinking like, this guy hates me. And now what's so funny is like, Andrew, now I get calls sometimes and they're like, I don't think I try to talk to Andrew Taylor. I don't think he likes me. And I'm like, no, that's just his personality. He does like you.
I do like you. I just have ADD, I think.
Isn't that so funny? But it's also a good point because I'm like, also if Andrew can be awkward and recruit like, you know, where you're doing 250 million, like anybody on this call can definitely do it.
That's a fact.
So well, Andrew, I love that you're here. Thank you so much. I put out some feelers for some questions today to like our managers and some of the people on our team, and just kind of wanted to do a Q&A because it's always good to get a different perspective. And I feel like a lot of times Sean like mostly does Q&A and then we hear his answers, but I'd love to hear them from you. But one of the main ones I got back, because either we do have a lot of new agents, so new agents are wondering, or managers that are trying to build and they're bringing on new agents, is in today's climate, right? We have a lot of different stuff, leads, we have like so much stuff, you can't even believe it. You bring in a new agent, what is like your recipe for them? What are you telling them to do? What are you telling them to dial? What leads are you telling them?
So good. Such a good question. Because like if you give them too many things, you're going to confuse them. Yeah. So what I do is I go, okay, it depends. Now this depends, but like if you have no money, like zero, or like you have a few $100s to your name, I do not baby people because I feel like it hurts them. So I tell them to like go get, you know, a few hundred aged leads and just make a couple sales. That's what I do. Now, let's say that they make a couple sales. I'm starting, might sound crazy to you because I thought it was crazy when I tried it, but vet Facebook leads and IUL Facebook leads. Those are the two things that I'm starting people on. And I'm just telling people, write an IUL on yourself so you learn it. And why wait? Like, I know it looks intimidating, but there's no reason to wait. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. People buy them all the time. But like, if you start going, buy this lead company and buy this lead company and do this, it's just going to confuse people.
Yeah. Are you telling them like a certain amount of dial time? Do they have to plug into Zoom? Like, what are you doing with that?
Yeah. So we have like a base shop Zoom. Somebody's on there all day long and they do not get on it, but they don't get on it all the time, but we tell them, yeah, this is what we expect. And this is how you can get help.
Yeah. I love that. And Andrew, I think sometimes that's hard for like builders to manage. And as a new agent, what is your expectations like between manager or the person that hired you and the agent? Like, what do you tell people? Like, this is when you call me for help and this is when like you need to figure it out on your own. Like, what's your balance between that?
Well, if they're in the Zoom, they can always get help. So I kind of say this up front. So like, I'll be like this, Marissa. I'll be like, hey, I need you to go to the conference. That's a non-negotiable for me if you want me to work with you. Now you can still work here, but I'm not going to work with you.
Wow.
And then you also have to be on Zoom. And the reason is, Marissa, is because I have two kids, 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, Atlas and AC, and I want to spend time with them. So if you don't get the information on this call, and then you call me at 7 p.m. because you didn't go to the conference, you didn't get on Zoom, to me, it's kind of selfish because you're just taking advantage of my time. So I'd rather just have you get on and then we can all learn together. We can all help each other and we can save time.
Yeah, I love that. Simple enough.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then Andrew, when you were selling or like right now, do you have a budget that you tell people that they should spend every week or just whatever you can spend on leads?
I try to tell people that you're going to write. So like every $100, I think you'll write $1,000 in premium. And the newer leads, the less time on the phone. So if you have more time than money, you can get the older leads and you can go make sales. But if you're starting to get cash flow, instead of spending money on whatever, money can go fast. Like I'm sure you guys know, you get money and it can be gone. But make sure to get newer leads because you're buying your time back. And like you don't have to make as many calls if you're getting newer leads. So I'll tell people, get to the point to where you're putting $1,000 into leads, and like at $20 a lead, $1,000 leads for vet leads, you get a lot. You'll get a lot of leads. Like it's going to be hard not to close a deal. Now there'll be weeks, which I've had 1,000 times. Like I always said, every 3 weeks it would be a dogfight for me, and I would question if this worked my entire career. So there'll be weeks where you get a new lead pack and you still don't make a sale, and you have to grind out that week and be like, what am I going to do? I might have to get some extra bronze leads, or I might have to go above and beyond, go the extra mile that week because something didn't work out. So for me, like, I don't know what it was, but every few weeks I'm like, man, I don't know if this works anymore. Even though I issued, 400K last year, I'm like, I don't know if this works anymore. But I think you got to be willing to adapt and change. But I think 1,000 a week or more is legit.
I love that. Okay, Andrew, someone asked me this from your speech at convention. Said that you mentioned on stage at convention that you wanted to quit the business probably more than anyone has. Why didn't you quit? And what practices did you put in place for yourself to keep going on like the days that you just talked about?
Well, I had like a big goal to take care of my mom. And like, I would actually quit, but I would wake up the next morning and I would start again. And then I don't know. You can't fail if you don't quit. Like if you don't really quit, like you literally, like you're going to eventually make it if you don't quit. And so I don't know what it was. Like, I was just like, I'm not willing in the moment, maybe, but having good perspective too. And I tell this story a lot because it's really powerful, but I always say Sean has a degree in minimization. He could take something that's a big deal and he can make it small. So I would be complaining because I got a $28,000 chargeback, which I did, which is funny because that client called me today because they ended up coming back and getting a policy. But at the moment, at a $28,000 chargeback, I'm complaining to him and he's saying, dude, a bunch of people, this many people died today. There's kids in a cancer hospital. Like, grow up, have some respect for yourself, knock it off. That would be his response to me, which I needed because you could get you could really take everything for granted if you're not careful. So having that coaching helped me big time.
Yeah. I remember one time Andrew Trey was telling us this story where when he got all of his like money out of his bank account got like hacked or whatever. And he's like, I wanted to call Sean and tell him, but I knew Sean would be like, dude, who cares if you lost 250 grand today? Have some respect for yourself.
That's so good.
Okay. Someone asked, what is separating the people that have been here for years and are struggling to build an agency versus the people that come in within a year or two and have extreme success in a profitable business?
All right. So I don't know, but I don't know the answer, but I know that there's something that I've identified in like a few people that have had success quick. And what I call it is, it's like you have people that want to check the boxes, they want to make some money, and then you have some other people where they have what I call a burning desire to win. Like they're kind of crazy in the beginning to get momentum to start recruiting people. But I think they're sharing what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. That dog in them. Like that when I am talking to agents, I'm like, okay, who has that? And if I can identify it, then that's where I put all my time. So there's a guy on our team now, which you guys will hear from, but he has that. And I'm like, am I going to invest in him or am I going to invest in somebody that, like, am I going to invest my time in him, or am I going to invest someone who's kind of so wishy-washy, kind of negative, kind of not, sells a couple policies here and there, or this dude who's like on literally on Zoom like 15 hours a day helping people close deals for just to help them, and then also selling 50K a month himself, and he's only been doing this for a few months. So what am I doing now, Marissa? I'm telling people about him. I'm telling Sean about him. I'm seeing how we can help him. I'm seeing what resources we can do. So I think you earn resources. The more work you put in, the more opportunities you get. And I would probably guess that's why some people pull away, because the momentum, the resources, the favors that they're earning, they're getting, they're just going to grow way faster. Like someone called me earlier. They're like, hey, my manager quit. I need a new place to go with FFL. I'm like, I got the perfect dude for you. This dude. Got them on a Zoom. They like each other, and we're good to go.
Yeah. Andrew, I love what you said too, because I kind of just thought of this question on the spot as you were bringing it up. But like, how detrimental do you think that like having an ego in the business is versus like trying to bring your team up with you?
Yeah. I think we've seen ego destroy a lot of teams. And this is what is a red flag to me. So let's say Marissa was like, everybody on this call, don't talk to anyone else, only talk to me, and only do it this one way. And I'm the greatest sales trainer of all time. Those are all red flags. Those teams I see go up and then kind of like self-destruct. And then you got people like how Marissa really is, where she's like, let's get any resource. Let's get training from other teams. Let's not be threatened by anyone. Let's not have an ego. Let's help people. And I always say that sometimes the best salespeople can't build a team because it's literally all about them. Like I've seen that happen a few times, and I always thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's huge. That is kind of a weird fact for sure.
I know.
I know, which is also crazy, Andrew, because as like a leader, it's so much easier. That's what people don't understand. Like, I'm like, I want to connect everybody with everybody, because think about how much less work I have to do if I do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I'm like, go connect with Andrew, go ask Grady, go ask Nicole and Riyadh and Desiree what the heck they're doing with IULs, go call, Zach and ask what the heck to do about this carrier or whatever. I'm just like over here and just directing, and it's like less stress on you if you connect your people with other people and they can learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Which is super cool, because then I'm like, when you find the answer, let me know too, because then I can pretend I have it for the next person.
Yeah. Yeah. So like these conferences coming up, I would spend my time recruiting people to get to these events. The Ignite event, we have a Vegas and lock-in. We have a lock-in in Vegas, which we had to get a room for because I think we have like 150 people. We didn't expect that many, but everyone's so excited to build now. But you guys are welcome to come, and I'm going to put the link here if you guys want to invite anybody on the West Coast. I'll put it in the chat right now.
Sweet. Sounds good. Andrew, a lot of people asked if since you've been growing this, is there a mistake or like the biggest mistake you made in business, or something that you regret that you could save us from doing as we grow this thing?
Yeah. So I would say like protect your culture. So like there's been times where like someone's real negative, or I have a bad vibe, but they're writing a lot of business, so I kind of ignore it. And that's usually like if your gut's telling you something's wrong, something usually is wrong. So don't sacrifice what you guys have, which is a good environment and a good culture, for volume. If somebody's negative, police each other. So like Marissa, if someone came into your guys' Zoom and they were being super negative, trying to ruin everything, the people on this call should police them. And it really hit me because the Dream Center. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, it's interesting because I was with Sean when he met Pastor Matthew at the Dream Center, and he said we want to get them millions of dollars a year to help more people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol get in their program where they could live there for free. and they can get sober. And dude, the stories are just absolutely insane. But these are people from Skid Row, okay? And we go there, and there's hundreds of people living under the same roof from Skid Row. So guess what I said, Marissa, my first question. I'm like, do they get in fights?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. I'm like, do they cause problems? They're like, no. And Pastor Matthew's the nicest dude in the world. I'm like, dude, how do you police this place? He goes, they police each other, because the people that are further in the program, they don't want anyone else to mess up what they have. So I don't have to do anything. So like if someone's doing something they shouldn't be doing, they police each other. So then I was like, yo, that's like our team. Like when we're doing the best, we're policing each other. When we're not, it's like we're letting these things slide that will eventually bite us.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy, Andrew, because I feel like now I would do it. Like I would be like, you can't be in here with your negativity. But back when you're just growing, sometimes that's hard because you have this 40 or 50K producer, and then you're like, they're being cancerous to the team, but they're doing a lot of volume. So that's such a good, analogy of like, do it no matter when. Volume you can always get more volume. It's kind of like you can always get more money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And healthy volume.
Yeah, which is huge, and like be profitable.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the people that are building or recruiting or even selling, whatever, they've gotten to that, like, all right, we got to 150 grand, we got to 200, maybe 500. What is the difference, and what should they do? Like, okay, we got to where we got to, but now what's the change to now get to 1 million and beyond?
This is so good.
20 guys to 200 guys.
Okay, so this is so good. So there was years where I was stuck at 150K. So I always say that it's the hardest thing is to break like the 150 to 500 gap. And there's one year where, oh, that's awesome. I'm just reading that comment. There was one year where I'm frustrated, and this was my plan to try to move up. Okay, so I had 10 guys and girls, and I'd go, okay, Jordan, can you do 30K this month? And then I go, Jack, can you do 30K this month? And if everybody did it, we would hit 300K. But they would have to do that every month to maintain that volume. Okay. So one year it's Christmas time. And I'm like, you know what? This year, I'm not going to take 2 weeks off, because I think people are looking for a change in the beginning of the year. So I'm going to try to figure out how to recruit during this time, because when's a better time? Like it's at the end of the year, like new year, new me, all that stuff. This is probably when people want to change. No one else is going to be recruiting. So I'm going to recruit. So I call Sean, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm like, dude, I can't get past this mark. What should I do? And he goes, dude, no offense, but you've been waiting on the same 10 guys for 5 years to get you to the next level. And I know you love them, but they're not going to get you to that level. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. So he's like, so go find new guys. So I run a bunch of ads that last 2 weeks of the year, Craigslist, like everything, everywhere you could run ads to try to find new people to recruit. Because most of my warm market was not recruitable at the time. So I start recruiting, and I bring in new producers. And this is the interesting thing about this. Okay. I bring in these new producers, and they start building, and they start doing well. Well, what happened is the original 10 guys saw what they were doing, and they were like, wait, I have the opportunity to do that. Why? Like, I'm not going to get passed by this new dude. So they ended up becoming the guys to help get me to the next level. I was like, dude, that's so crazy. So I learned you constantly have to have like Funny Salesman Jr., the 18-year-old kid that is in Detroit door knocking. That kid has me more excited than like anybody, because he's a new recruit. He's excited. You're seeing what it's going to do for his life. and you constantly have to have that coming in. And if you don't, it just gets, it's like that. There's a movie with Ryan Reynolds where he's like, I think it might be called Fall Guy or something, where he's stuck in this loop and you do the same thing every single day. Have you seen that movie?
No, I've seen Fall Guy, but I don't think it's that movie, is
Maybe
it?
it's not that one. Well, there's a movie where he's stuck in this loop. So every day he gets his coffee, he goes to work, and everything's exactly the same every single day, and he starts to go crazy. And I'm like, if we're not bringing in this new excitement, we're just in a loop. And Dave Anderson's new book, if you haven't read it, one of the chapters is there is no neutral, because I read it after the conference, and it's kind of like this, like you are either going backwards. Oh, free guy, that's what it is, free guy. You are either going backwards or you're growing, but there is not a neutral. So if I'm just sitting there with 10 dudes, since there's no neutral and we're not going forward, we're going backwards. And you might not see it. It might take 6 months, 7 months, 8 months to see it, but it's it's moving in the wrong direction.
Wow. There is no neutral. Okay, Drew, what are some things that if you're on with a recruit or you're talking to somebody about joining the business that you always, always, always are talking about? Like, what are your points?
Okay. So if I'm recruiting Marissa, then this is basically how I recruit her. I'm going to go, Marissa, you seem awesome, but you could be lying to me about how good you are at sales and how good you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
And I could be lying to you that I'm going to help you, that we have this awesome system. It could be total nonsense. So what I like to do is I like to, in the first week, let's get you moving and let's see if we can get you paid in the first week and see if what you say is true and what I say is true. And if we can do that, then let's continue to work together. But if we can't, let's stop. And what I don't like to do is take 6 months to kind of just be in the middle with people, and then they don't make money, and then they take 6 months to make a decision instead of finding something better for them. So are you okay with getting started right now? We're going to get you calling right away, and we're going to try to get you paid this week. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with getting paid ASAP.
Okay. So that's what I say to every single person.
So then, Andrew, if they are the ones that decided not to work, then that's kind of on them. So it takes all the responsibility off you too.
Yeah. And like the real interview is the first 2 weeks of working with them, because like, I don't know if you guys know this, but people will just ghost. Like they'll just disappear. It's like a, yeah, it's like a date that you thought went good and then they just disappear on you. You never hear from them again. So I just go, dude, your real interview is the first 2 weeks. I don't care what you say. You could quote every book in the world. You look good. You're a natural born salesperson. You can sell anything, ice to an Eskimo. I've heard it all. But at the end of the day, in the first 2 weeks, if they don't work, which a lot of times that's the person that doesn't work. And it's usually like the person with no sales experience that you never would see coming from a mile away, that's like grinding and making sales. So I just try to find those people.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, Drew, last question, then I promise I'll let you get home to Atlas and AC, which Atlas will probably be selling soon because he's like smarter. Guys, this is random, but one of my favorite things to do is just quiz Andrew's son because he knows the answers to everything.
Yeah, he does.
One time he brought this alligator, it was like a stuffed alligator, and I was like, oh, that's an alligator. And he's like, it's not. And he was like, told me the species of alligator it was. And he was like, you're wrong. Like that kid knows everything. So
Yeah.
he's the bomb. But anyway, so Drew, someone asked, is there a time when you felt, or at what point did you feel like you had this business figured out? Or has it always just been like evolving?
I don't know if I ever will feel like I have it figured out. And I don't know if you ever feel like you have life figured out. Like, I think it's just everything's constantly changing. I took notes at the conference because the game has changed. Like, I'm learning from some of you guys because there's a new generation coming in and people are doing things different and technology is changing. So I think if you think you got it figured out, um, I think you'll have a problem. My goal is just to keep keep learning and like changing with the industry. Because like you see all these big businesses and change comes and they go out of business, like Blockbuster and Netflix and all these different things. Well, the insurance industry, we're at like a point in time where there's a massive change, and the people who embrace this, they're gonna explode. Like the opportunity is too good. And I've said this to Sean a bunch of times, but imagine somebody, you know what market I think has not been tapped? People that have like a disability where they can't actually go anywhere, but they could get on the phone and they could dial. And I thought about this because this mom had cancer, and someone was telling me the story that she was in the hospital calling leads and closing deals. And I'm like, dude, like think about somebody has a back problem, somebody has some type of medical condition where they can't go to an office anymore, but they could pop on the phone and they can make a couple of sales a day and make life-changing money for themselves. So I just see this like, I see this Zoom thing opening this up to the whole world, where before it was like, yeah, you gotta drive around, you gotta be a salesperson, you gotta go to people's houses, you gotta do all these things. But dude, you got a lot of people, they'll work like crazy. They just, like, I had an agent who he couldn't drive because his back was messed up, so he couldn't work with me before. Now he could rip deals on the phone. So
Yeah.
I want to keep learning. And like we said, there's no neutral. So like I even notice myself, if I don't keep learning, if I don't put positive stuff in my head every day, I'll go negative. And it's like, dude, I got everything I ever wanted in business times 10. And if I still could go negative, I'm like, dude, we got to keep learning, reading, growing, getting around people that are winning, staying positive. You always have to.
Yeah, that's huge. And Andrew, you're such like a testament too to one, like that statement alone, but also like when we just talk about our culture versus other companies. I was saying this to an agent the other day. Like you don't have to work from a monetary standpoint. Like you could have retired a long time ago. Obviously, you got integrity partnership. You do 250 million a year, which like blows out of the water any other IMO, much less team. So like it's such a good like you are the example of like it doesn't become just about money. Like guys, Andrew has enough money. He doesn't need to be on this Zoom call at 5 p.m. with us, 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. now Eastern. But like the thing that drives you is to keep learning and to keep helping other people. And I think that's why like we stand apart from so many other companies where it's like, how little can I work to retire as fast as possible? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the fun part is building it. So like everybody on here, enjoy building it. That's the best thing in the world. With people you like, that become like some of your best friends, building a big company, making a difference. That's the best thing ever. And like, I don't know, if you retirement, I think sounds terrible to me. Like I'd rather go out and work and help people, and build stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You absolutely crushed it as always. And we know your time is so valuable and we could not be more grateful. So we're going to get back on the phones. And again, thanks so much. And guys, I will see you here in a couple weeks. Make sure you guys get registered for the Vegas Lock-In Ignite conference and let's have a killer year.
Awesome. Thank you, Marissa. See you guys.